Welcome,
Hello,
everybody.
everybody.
Buckle up, everybody. We got a fast-paced hour here. Can't waste any time this time of year, Peggy. We got November 1st deadlines around the corner. Oh boy. Oh boy.
It's all gonna work out.
Yeah, that's what they say. Of course it will.
I'm gonna give you guys a minute to roll in.
Where's everybody at in the country? We got any Hokie
I
fans
forgot
out
about
there? You Hokie fans got a half hour till kickoff. Where are we at?
that. Yeah, go ahead and there's a
Where's Wyoming,
$1.
Peggy? Wyoming out of the gate. We're
Nice.
penetrating Wyoming finally.
Nice.
Scottsdale, let's go.
Edison. I was a student teacher in Edison so long ago.
A lot of Bay Areas tonight. St. Diego. Yeah. Bay One. I saw Bay One, New Jersey. There we go. Home of the world famous Bill Rabbit. Two B's, two T's.
Brooklyn. Very nice.
We got nice New Mexico. All right. Love it, guys. Love it.
Yeah, go ahead and put in the chat. We should have told you. Go ahead and put in the high school graduating class of your kids too.
We're assuming we're there. We go. Yeah. Wow. Just
City,
everybody 24s, right?
Missouri City, Texas. I used to live in Sugarland. Yeah, a lot of 2020, some 2025s. That's good. 2026. All right.
All right, Peggy. Well, let's, guys, again, we got a lot to cover, obviously, really important information to cover in a relatively short period of time here. So we'll do quick introductions for those of you that are new here. My name is Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders at College A Pro. Class 2024 is the 19th class that I'll have guided through this process. So I've done this quite literally thousands of times over. It's kind of the only thing I know how to do professionally, and I got involved with this largely based on my personal experience of having two parents that didn't know what the heck they were doing, had the very best intentions and were doing everything they could, and it wasn't a lack of effort thing. It was just a lack of not having time, not having the education, and all of that ended in not the best result for myself and for my parents. And so, it was kind of an aha moment for me not too long after I graduated from college to be like, there's got to be a better way to do this, right? Because I knew our experience wasn't unique. And I've been doing it ever since, right? And this is what we love to do. I mean, this is, we know what's at stake here. We know the pressure that most families are feeling, and that's incredibly normal, right? I mean, first of all, you are not alone if you're feeling completely overwhelmed and behind and all of that. Something that we say, internally, and go Hokies, by the way, and externally every single day is it's your kids and your money. Like, no kidding, you're feeling overwhelmed, right? And I think the best way that you can at least lower those stress points is by doing what you're doing right now, and that's tuning in and getting yourself educated. And we think that we can do that better than anybody else, and we love to do it, right? And we want to help everybody make really good decisions and feel empowered and just not have this such a lot of fear of the unknown, I think. So anyways, that's what we're here to do tonight. You're in outstanding hands. My partner in crime here, Peg Keough, out in I'm actually in the Halloween capital of the world here in Salem, Massachusetts. Peggy's out there in Seattle. Peggy is speak in the spirit of Halloween, the fairy godmother of financial aid, here to take care of you all tonight. So Peggy, why don't you say hi and we'll get cooking.
I've already kicked in and answered 3 or 4 questions, Carp. So
always providing value.
I love these audiences that just hit the ground running. Yeah. So I'm Peg Keough. Been doing this work I've been in the financial industry for longer than I want to admit. So, but started my own business just doing this like 10 years ago, and met the guys at CAP and beta tested the software, and we just always knew each other. We're doing the same kind of work, different parts of the country. And a couple of years ago, it just made sense for me to join CAP for a whole bunch of reasons I won't bore you with. But been working with thousands of families, educating. I'm the director of education at CAP. So this is what I love doing is teaching and educating. And I have twins, so I've been through this. They're graduated, they're supporting themselves. You will get there too. Sometimes you need some deep breaths, but it really doesn't have to be as stressful as it is for a lot of families. And the more you know, the easier it is to flow through this process. Basically, you don't want to drift. You don't want to dig your head in the sand and say, oh, we'll just figure it all out later. So kudos for being here. And I already saw a question. We will be sending the recording, so don't worry about that. You can watch it again. You'll get that tomorrow. And we love questions. I know we asked you to put some info in the chat, but please keep your questions coming in the Q&A, and we'll remind you, because it's one place for us to look and you can be anonymous. So please put that in there and we'll remind you if you forget. So let's get rocking here.
Yeah, and on that note, 2 questions. We're going to do our very best. Again, whichever one of us is not speaking is going to be banging away in the Q&A. I guarantee you we'll answer 100+ questions tonight, but just with the volume of the audience, we're not going to get to all of them. Stay tuned for the end. For those of you that show up to these things regularly, you know we always give some very meaningful giveaways, discounts, etc. at the end of the presentations, and we will make sure that you understand, hey, if you didn't get your question answered tonight and you got some stuff that's still keeping you up at night, how can you interface with us beyond just this hour here? So I promise we'll be there.
All right, you're kicking it off tonight, buddy.
Yes, I am. So here you go. Here's the mission, front and center. A pretty audacious one here, but this is we believe that how we're going to end the student debt crisis is by educating families on the front end. That's how we avoid ending up in the place that we're in as a nation on the back end. And again, this is how we do it. And you guys got an email this morning to set up your accounts, right? So there's the lovebirds, the happy couple. So if you haven't already, the firm recommendation is, and Peg will put this in the chat for you guys right now, set up your MyCap accounts. What it's going to do right out of the gates is a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight is it's going to personalize it for you. Am I going to be eligible for financial aid? Let me confirm or deny my suspicion or my instincts there. How much of these colleges actually going to cost me? Am I going to get scholarships? How much? At which colleges? Do my colleges require the CSS profile, right? We have a little cheat code in our application around that. So at a minimum, set up your free account. Everything is designed to answer most of the questions that, again, I'm sure are top of mind for you all. And again, just a reminder, please put all the questions in the Q&A as opposed to
I just put that in the chat.
Okay, so again, before we get too granular, let's get a little bit meta here. I mean, what is financial aid, right? In its simplest terms, it's a discount from the sticker price, or the terminology these colleges use, the cost of attendance. In layman's terms, the sticker price. And there's 3 different ways that we can get discounts. The first 2 is what we're focused on, need-based grants. So this is money that's given from the colleges and or the federal government just based on your family's financial situation, largely driven by income, 2022 income specifically for your 2024 families, and non-retirement assets, okay? Non-retirement savings and investments. And so that is kind of what gives us our foundation. And then how much we get in need-based grants, if any, is going to vary huge based on the specific college we're talking about, right? Something you're going to hear us say a bunch of times tonight, and we say it a bunch of times every day, every college is different, right? And so we have to understand, for the colleges that we're targeting, what is their business model, okay? How are they going to operate? What's the likelihood that they are going to give us discounts, whether it be, again, need-based or merit-based? And merit-based is the second type of money that we're interested in, because this is, again, another kind of free money that's awarded not based on our family's financial situation and how generous or not a college is. It's based on the student, right? These are the colleges that say, we think you'd be a good fit for our school. We want to give you a financial incentive discount to come here. We don't care how much or how little your parents make. That's a merit-based scholarship. And one thing that I always like to drill down on here, some people think, well, my kid's in the middle of the pack. They're not, you know, they don't have these amazing grades. They don't test well. They don't take AP courses. They're not going to get scholarships. Not true. Okay. Many colleges, hundreds of colleges, give scholarships to every single student that's accepted. So I just want that to land a little bit. And the takeaway be that just because your kid is not in the top of the class doesn't mean there is not a meaningful amount of colleges that would love to give them merit-based scholarships if they applied there, right? Obviously, the tricky part is which ones are also good fits for my kid. That's where there's part art, part science there. The last type of, air quotes here, financial aid is self-help. That's a sexy term for loans. Basically, the colleges and the system calls it financial aid, but it's actually loans that we're going to have to pay back plus interest. We just like to flag that because a lot of times when you get your offers, after you're accepted and you get your financial offer to come to these colleges, underneath financial aid, there's going to be dollar amounts listed, but at just about every college, a percentage of that is going to be in loans. And we just want to flag it. When that time of year comes later in this year, Peggy and I are going to be coaching you guys up on how to understand and read these offers and award letters, but I just want to plant that seed now. You could probably go to the next slide for me here, Peg. Okay, so it quickly here to just again help you understand how need-based financial aid works and how and this is again I planted that seed already. You will hear me say it again more than once. Every college is different. However, this is the universal formula that every college uses to determine your family's eligibility for need-based financial aid or lack thereof. And that is the cost of attendance. So there, again, sticker price. This is all in. Tuition, fees, room and board, miscellaneous, transportation costs, books, etc. All in. Minus your family's SAI. A dollar amount is going to get assigned to your family. Again, largely driven by your income and assets. Excuse me. You need to know what this number is. Okay. You need to know what this number is. This is why we say just set up your account right now. So as you're listening, you can see what your number is going to be. Because if that number is less than the cost of attendance at a college, then the difference, okay, the difference is your eligibility for need-based financial aid. Okay, so if the school costs 90 and your student aid index is 50, then you are eligible for $40,000 worth of need-based financial aid. Well, what happens with that $40,000? Do you pay it? Does the college pay it? Is it both? It depends on the college, right? The student aid index basically tells us that's probably the minimum we're going to pay at any given school. How much more we pay is completely dictated by how generous or not these colleges are with need-based financial aid, and there's a monumental range. Again, the source of truth is the software within your account, so you can see, well, how generous are the schools going to be to my family that are on our list as of today. Okay, so in terms of the financial aid process itself, okay, let's keep it meta for a second here, and you can go to the next slide, Peggy, please. So my kind of main rule of thumb, okay, if somebody asks me like, and again, we get this every single day from tons of parents here, like, what are the financial aid deadlines? Do they require the FAFSA? Do they require the CSS profile? Do they have their own institutional application? Everybody's different, right? That's the mindset you have to have. If you're applying to 10 different colleges, you have to look at this like, okay, there's 10 different businesses I have to deal with. They each run their business a different way. It's my responsibility as the parent's student to know, how do they run their business? What do they require? When is it due? How do they need it? And the challenge here, there's a few of them, is that, again, number one, it's not streamlined. So it's similar to the admissions process, right? You're applying to 10 schools right now. 6 of them take the Common App. 4 of them have their own. Some of them have supplemental applications and essays. Some of them don't, right? Some of them have November 1st deadlines. Some are December 1st, right? And so you guys are already dealing with this on the admission side. the financial aid side, it's the same deal. And you almost have to look at it like the admissions office and financial aid office. I always like the picture of how it actually works on a college campus. Generally speaking, they're two different buildings, right? They are two different buildings. The admissions office has their own deadlines, requirements, etc. And I have to seek out proactively the admissions via their website. Excuse me, exactly what does this college require and when do they require it? I have to do the same thing with financial aid. What do they require? When is it due, right? And again, the due dates are going to change based on the school that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, can you just stress that, Carp, because there's a lot of questions about my school's due on November 1st. Is the CSS profile required beforehand? So just dig in there on that one.
Yeah, so another really, I think, a common confusion point here is, should I do the admissions applications first, financial aid first? Do we have to both hit submit at the same time? Again, they're completely independent of one another. And you just have to make sure that you're satisfying the admissions deadlines and then satisfying the financial aid deadlines. Now, sometimes the admissions and financial aid deadlines are the same date, right? So if you're applying early decision, it could be the financial aid and admissions applications are due November 15th. Sometimes the financial aid deadlines are staggered behind the admissions deadline. It'll never be before. So that's important to note, that when you look at a admissions deadline, you're never going to have financial aid deadlines before that. The earliest it could be in relation to admissions deadline is on the same date as the admissions deadline. But again, it's your responsibility to find out what they need. We know everybody's going to require the FAFSA. Are they also going to require the CSS profile? Are they like Princeton that has their own application in lieu of the CSS profile? Are they like UPenn that has a third institutional application on top of the FAFSA and CSS profile? So again, I'm going to give you a cheat code and show you in the platform where you can get an idea of who requires the CSS profile. But you need to go on each of the college's financial aid website to see what do they require and when is it due, and you cannot miss a deadline. Do not give these guys excuses to give you less money, because they will. Do not miss a deadline. I'd rather have your form be completely wrong than I would have you be late by 1 day in terms of a financial aid deadline. Okay. And then don't worry about the FAFSA right now, guys. The FAFSA is not going to be accessible to December at the earliest. There's a chance that gets moved to January, right? So I don't want you to even get distracted by the FAFSA at this stage of the game. We cannot access it if we have a 2024 student, the FAFSA is not accessible, okay, until some point in December, potentially January. But sit tight on that. And kind of on that note, we can segue to the FAFSA quick, Peggy. The takeaway is everybody needs to do the FAFSA, full stop. I don't care if you're eligible for financial aid or not, for a few reasons. Number one, if you want to be considered oftentimes for merit-based scholarships at many colleges, you got to do the FAFSA. If you do the FAFSA, the student's going to be entitled to borrow up to $27,000 over the course of 4 years. You're not going to find a better student loan on planet Earth. You have to do the FAFSA to be entitled to it, even if you don't need it. Okay. And we recommend to all our families, your kids should have some skin in the game. And this is a completely reasonable number and the best place to get it. Even if you don't want to do that, pay it off for them the next day. They graduate as 22-year-olds with established credit. So everybody should be doing the FAFSA, full stop. And you can do this even if you're not applying for financial aid. But that's kind of, again, we are going, as the more information comes out, and believe me, Peggy specifically is in the weeds with this literally every single day. So we have a pulse of this like nobody else. So, and like we do, we'll communicate that with everybody in our audience as more information comes out, but sit tight. Don't even get distracted with the FAFSA at this stage of the game. Okay. All right, Peggy, let's talk about the CSS profile a little bit.
All right, here we go. Okay. So CSS profile, and we've had a lot of questions about this. We're going to spend a little time here. So this is administered through College Board. I'm gonna go in and give you an idea of what it looks like in a minute. You see the URL up here. I'm actually going to show you that page. This is submitted along with the FAFSA. This year, you're most likely going to be submitting it earlier because of what Matt just talked about. The FAFSA is not live yet. It's about 200 mostly private schools that require this. There's a few publics in there, UVA, William and Mary, Michigan, UNC, Chapel Hill, okay? There's some key differences between the FAFSA and the CSS profile. One of the biggies is they're going to ask about the home you live in, the market value, what your mortgage is. We're going to talk about it, but on the forms, my 3 commandments, if you will, on these forms are: be honest, don't overshare, and don't overestimate. And that really comes into play with the market value of your home. So we'll get in the weeds on that later and on subsequent webinars. But just keep that in mind. I answered a question on this, but I'm going to go a little more detailed. If you're divorced or separated, the custodial parent is actually going to submit the CSS profile with your child, and then the non-custodial parent is going to submit the non-custodial CSS profile. They both go to College Board. Privacy is maintained. The custodial parent is defined as the parent that provides the most financial support. So that's going to be in line with the FAFSA. When you get to do the FAFSA down the road, the same definition. Only the custodial parent submits the FAFSA, but you're going to decide who that is right now if you're submitting the CSS profile, and then it will obviously be the same person when it comes to the FAFSA. So because only one parent is submitting the FAFSA, you want to think strategically about this. If it's obvious who provides the most financial support on a year look back from when you're submitting the form, then it is what it is. You know, if one person just is winning the race, then they are, right? But a lot of families are 50-50, which I say that's great. You don't be 50-50. Figure out which parent has lower assets, lower income, and will have the most eligibility on these forms, and have that parent pay a little bit more money for your kid, right? So you're being honest and you're following the rules. So there you go. So keep that in mind. Just because somebody's paying child support, if the child spends more time with the other parent, you're paying a mortgage, you've got utilities, you've got expenses. You want to think about this way, because it could mean thousands and thousands of dollars in aid that you could potentially get. So that's how it works for divorced. You're both sending it, but you've got privacy maintained. If you're a business owner, they're going to get all your tax returns. They're going to know all about your businesses. So that's going to be on there. And just this year, if you're new to this whole process, you're going to do the CSS first, most likely. When you see the FAFSA, it's going to be a dream because it's shorter. The CSS profile is at least 3 times longer, much more invasive, much more complex. Okay.
Go ahead and give Uncle Bill's advice, Peggy.
So our colleague Billy, he says, if you're gonna go do the CSS profile, if you're somebody who enjoys to have a drink now and again, you might want to have, you know, your glass of wine. I would prefer a beer or cocktail at the ready for the FAFSA. When you're doing the CSS profile, you're probably going to want more of that bottle of wine handy and a few more beers, basically. And we're joking, right? We're not encouraging excessive drinking here at CAP.
21 only. 21 only. This does not apply for students.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Matt. So anyways, we're just, you know, we're kidding here, but we're not kidding. It is. It's long and it's a pain in the butt, basically. So just you've been warned, but you just got to do it. We're here to support you. We're going to talk about that at the end. If we can step in, we're more than happy. So let me give you a visual, because I think that will take away a little bit of the stress too, if you kind of understand what you're doing here. Because somebody wrote in and said, how do I log in? So basically, you're going to go to that cssprofile.collegeboard.org. You're going to be on this page. First thing, you're submitting the fall 2024, spring 2025 profile. That's when your child's starting school. If you have a class of 2025 or 2026, you're here, you're learning, awesome. You're not going to do anything. You're just soaking all this up and learning, okay? Once you go in and you log in, you're going to use your child's College Board login if you're the custodial parent. And most kids have that. If they took the PSAT, they have AP classes, they've got the email and the password. So you go there, you log in. Once you log in, then you're on your dashboard. And it looks, well, that's weird. It logged me out. Huh. Okay. Let me, Matt, I will let you talk for a minute. I'm going to go and log in because it logged me out since we started the webinar. So just give
Yeah,
me a minute.
well, you know what? This is actually a good kind of case study, guys. These, as you're doing these forms too, and important, oftentimes you're going to get, it's going to glitch, right? It's not your computer. It's not you. Anytime that is a popular time to complete these forms, it crashes every single year. It's already happened this year. It will happen more. It's going to happen again with FAFSA. Another important thing to kind of remind, just like a sanity check thing, you don't have to complete any of these forms in one sitting, right? So that's like important to know too, of like, all right, like I'm starting to lose my mind. I'm getting frustrated. It's kicking me off. Call it a day, right? Save it, call it a day, come back tomorrow. So anyways, and here we
Yeah, and
go.
that's why you don't want to do these the night before they're due. Because if you lose power or it crashes, the Common app was crashing last week or earlier this week. So yeah, great point there. Okay, so now we're on, this is what your dashboard will look like. You notice, I'm going to go into the application in a minute. Here's the schools that I plugged into my sample family so far. That'll always be there. You can always go back in and submit it to more schools. If you are divorced or separated and you put that in as you're answering questions, you're going to see this. This is asking for that non-custodial parent's information, which you definitely want to provide because that other parent, as I said before, is also going to be submitting their own CSS profile. So just so you have a visual, I've gone through and done most of these sections. So when you come in, it'll build as you go. But these are all the different sections. It used to have a nice little navigation bar on the left, but that's gone. So it is what it is. You see there's one that I went in and it's telling me to continue. Once you're all done, you'll be able to review it. I highly recommend you do that. And I always tell people, review it with a new set of eyes. Go to bed, look at it the next day. If you've been sitting there for a long time working on it, something might not jump out at you that will the next morning, or have your spouse look at it, or whatever you want to do. But definitely review it for one last time before you hit submit, and they give you that option. So that's your dashboard, just to give you a heads up on that. So now I'm going to go back and I want to show you a few of the questions, and I want to, that's the wrong thing. And I want to give you some kind of tips and tricks, what we share with our families to make this a little bit of an easier process. So first of all, throughout the form, you're going to notice that some questions are required and some questions are not. So just like you see here, there's going to be the word required in parentheses. If it's required, you're not going to be able to mess up, because if you go and hit save and continue, it's going to tell you put something there. And even if it's 0, you'll have to put 0. The other thing, you're going to see a lot of this, these yes and no's. If it's not required, what we recommend most of the time is don't answer it. And there's a method to our madness. You know, you're going to upload your tax returns and everything through either iDoc or directly through a school secure portal, whatever they use. They're going to check everything. So you're not being dishonest. You're not hiding things. They're going to see stuff. Just make it easier on yourself. Plus some things, which I'll talk about in a minute, you really don't want to share, because you want to be able to share when you are going to reach out after and you have more leverage with the school. So again, there's a method to our madness. But when you see these yes or no's, don't start clicking on them, because once you click on one, all you can do is toggle back and forth. So then you have to answer the question, which is not the end of the world if you do it. But if you click it, then you're going to have to answer it, even if it's not required. So just keep that in mind. A great change they made last year, College Board, if your adjusted gross income, that's what AGI stands for, is less than 100,000, or it might even be 100,000 or less, the fees will be waived, or there's a question that says, check any of these that are applicable to your family. If any of them are, you'll get a message that says, based on this information, you have a fee waiver, which is nice. We could take whatever you can get, right? The first school is $25 and subsequent schools are $16 because there's a one-time registration fee in the first one. So when you get to the end, all your schools will be there, all your child's schools, but it'll just say 0. So just keep that in mind. If that's applicable to you. This is a question, this is a group of questions, a flow of questions that I want to go over because it always brings up questions with parents, and rightly so. So in this scenario, MJ is the mom, right? So they're asking about the mom. It's not required, so leave it blank. Again, they're asking about the mom. Do you have these retirement plans? Are you going to draw Social Security? Yada, yada. Leave it blank. The next question you're going to see is required. And this didn't used to be required. As of last year, it was. They're asking you the balance in all of your different retirement accounts. And you might be thinking, well, I know from your other webinars that you did with Matt that those aren't part of the formula. They're not part of the equation for SAI. And you're absolutely right. But they are asking this question and it is required. So you got to answer it, basically. Some of our experts, because we have a team of experts that we've found from all over the country. We've got people ex-Southern Cal, head of financial aid. We've got a guy who's at MIT, a guy who's at Harvard School of Medicine, University of Oklahoma. They don't require the CSS, but we draw from their knowledge from being behind the curtain, so to speak. And they have told us, if you have a lower balance in your retirement accounts, that could potentially help, because they will look and see, oh, mom and dad are pushing 60 and they don't have that much in savings. It could help when they're figuring out the package for your child. But just a heads up, this question is required. So if it pops up, if you haven't saved for retirement pre-tax, you might not even see this question, which will be nice. You'll sidestep it, but most families are going to see it. So just a heads up. This is the question that hands down every parent asks about, and it's a great question. So this is in the student section under student assets, and you get to student resources. And so they're asking, how much does Peg, which is the student, expect to receive from different sources? And so the first question is the parents, right? So they give on every question, there's these little carrots you can click on. So they're telling you right here, don't put what you're going to borrow. Don't put what other family members are going to give you. What you want to be careful here is, like, there's nothing you can put here that's going to help you, but there are answers you can put that could really hurt you. The big thing is you don't want to put a number higher than your student aid index. And I was just doing this presentation, it's slightly different for school counselors, and they were writing in saying, well, how will they know their student aid index? Create your free account. Matt's going to show it in a few minutes. Both of your good estimates of your indexes will, your SAIs will be right up there. You have to know that. You don't want to put, I can afford 30,000 if your SAI is 20, because the school will say, oh, that's lovely. Now we expect this family to pay $30,000. So what a lot of families do is, if they have a bucket of money allocated, or a 529, a college savings account that has whatever, $40,000 in it, then they put 10,000 here. They know their SAI is 40,000. That's not going to change what the college does. So be really careful how you answer this. Another question that I don't have a screenshot, but it's also on this page at the bottom. It says, what about relatives? And you notice this question says for the 24-25 academic year. It's very specific for the year that the form is for. So when grandma and grandpa have money that they've saved, we want to help your Johnny with school. If you know, hands down, that they're going to contribute a certain amount of money, then you got to put it. But if you don't, and it's just been this we want to help sort of scenario, then you don't need to put it there, because they're very specific about the academic year. So again, you want to be honest, but you don't want to ever overestimate or overshare. So that's a area that routinely, like I said, parents have questions. So Now let's talk about, and we've talked a little bit about
And
divorce.
Peg, another way that, again, for what it's worth, that part of it isn't, there's not an exact science outside of, and Peg hammered this. You can only hurt yourself by putting too high of a number there. So if you're going to miss on the low side. Another loose rule, this is by no means an exact science that I've had, is something along the lines of like, if your income is $50,000 or less, put 0. Anything above that, put 10% of your adjusted gross income, and don't put more than 40,000, right? So it's kind of like, if you have an adjusted gross income of 300,000, put 30,000 dollars a year, right? And unless you have more than one kid in college at once, that's another thing you got to think about, and is a better rule that you have, Peg, in terms of tying it to your SAI. And then again, if your income's higher than that, I wouldn't put more than 40,000. But again, Peg said it, don't over rotate on it too much. And if you're going to miss on a side, you miss on the low side.
Yeah. So there are all these big changes. Matt's going to touch on them in a few minutes on the FAFSA, and some of them the CSS profile has adopted, but a lot of them they haven't. But this one they have. So, and I already talked about this on the slide, but just they are very clear on the form who is submitting this if you're divorced, and then the other one's going to submit separately, because those, you do want those to match when you're doing the FAFSA, which you will have to down the road, and the CSS profile. They are following the new definition of custodial parent, the one that provides the most financial support, and they make it really clear here that they're doing that. But I just wanted to call it out because there could be confusion on that one. So this is kind of we had this last year, and then I'll turn it back over to Matt. This is really kind of the mistakes that we see the most often, and some of these I've already hit. If it's not required, we recommend you leave it blank. If you're laying in bed at night saying, oh my gosh, I really wanted to fill this one question in and Peg and Matt told me not to, then go fill it in, right? Don't lose sleep. It's your form. So ultimately, it's just like a tax return. It's your tax return. You're accountable for that. Same thing here. So if you're not comfortable, we're never going to give you advice that's wrong and that's committing fraud. But if you're not comfortable and you really want to share something, then go ahead and do it. We're just giving you our advice that helps you and our mind put your best foot forward. Number 2, don't overvalue your home. I already went through this, right? You want to sell that house, yesterday, like, quick sale value. And then there's something called the IRS quick sale value that you can take another 15-20% off. So just don't overvalue your home. Do not include 529 accounts that you own as your child's asset, because they're going to ask about your kid's assets and yours, the student in question. If you're the owner of it and your child's a beneficiary, it's an asset of yours. Grandma and grandpa, it's not even part of that question. We went through number 4, it's highlighted, we've covered that. There's going to be sections where they're going to ask you, what do you think you're going to make for the rest of 2023? And what about 2024? Again, what you know for sure you're going to make. Do not overestimate. Oh, I'm going to get this big bonus. It's not even part of the calculation, but it's all part of how they look at your family. There's a section, this is number 6, there's a section in the CSS, the special circumstances section, where you can mark a box and then write them some information about how things might be different now. We recommend you leave that blank. And somebody asked me this question already in the Q&A, because we want you to reach out later and say, hey, thanks for your offer, but I have some stuff I got to share about our financial situation. If you spit it all out on the form and you reach out, they're going to say, yeah, we saw that. You don't have the leverage. So we really recommend that you leave that blank and then follow up later, and we can help you with that. And again, Matt already talked about deadlines. I had a mom, she reached out, never met her. She's got a junior at Southern Cal. She said, my son's package is so much worse this year. And the first thing is, did you miss the deadline for upperclassmen? Because if you did, you could have lost $10,000 of grants. So you've got to be on the top of the financial aid form deadlines. You got to be on top of all the deadlines in this process. So, all right, Matt, I will turn it back over to you.
Great audience questions tonight. They're putting us to the test tonight here, Peggy. So 240.
Are you saying you're stumped? Is that what you're saying?
They're in their dreams, no, the volume is good, but also very good questions, like educated questions here. So keep them coming. Like I said, we're a little bit overmatched here. Sometimes we do these presentations, and so I'm sure some of you know, with a bigger team, so we got a whole bunch of us asking questions, but you're stuck with Peggy and I tonight. So you've heard a couple of these teased. Let's talk about these significant FAFSA changes. You 2024 families are the guinea pigs here. So what do you need to know? To me, these are the headlines: good news, bad news, and I'm going to start with the good news. And that's really, bullets 5 through 7 here. Number one, first and foremost, there's more money coming for families that need it the most. We're all psyched about that. You're all psyched about that. I think universally nobody's pushing back on that, nor should they, right? I mean, the families, students that need the most help, they're getting more help. This means the Pell Grants are going up, the actual dollar amounts, the thresholds to be eligible for these are going up, right? They're, the cutoffs used to be too low. Okay. So again, the form itself, in theory, and we are feeling confident here, is easier to complete, right, and execute. So families that couldn't get this FAFSA across the finish line previous years, therefore getting zero financial aid, I think a meaningful percentage more are going to be able to do that. So everybody's stoked about that. Some of the kind of the lesser wins, right, but are still wins. It used to be that if you had 3 kids, okay, and you had a 529 plan for each of them, the colleges made you report the 529 balances for all 3 kids. Even if you had a 6th grader and a 4th grader, they're going to hold those 529s plans against your 12th grader, right? Ridiculous. They got rid of that. So now you don't have to report the 529 savings in your younger siblings, younger kids' names on the FAFSA. Hopefully a couple light bulbs going off out there. There's an opportunity there for a strategy, right? Completely within the rules of the game. It depends on your financial institution, but you could change the beneficiary of your class 2024 student of the 529 to a younger sibling, and you're within the rules of the game of not having to report it on the FAFSA. Okay. That's not a firm blanket recommendation, because there's different nuances and different financial institutions have their different rules, but hopefully some light bulbs went off there.
Yeah, and not to plug us personally, but before you would implement a strategy like that, I strongly recommend you meet with one of us for an hour, go through it, because it's a great strategy, but it might not be applicable to you, and you probably have better things to do if it's not. So really, he's trying to trigger some thoughts in your mind, but it's really helpful to meet and really talk about it. So sorry to interrupt there.
That was a good break-in, Peggy. That was worthy break-in. Not all of them are, but that one was. So and then the other one here is that, they used to, if we contributed to a 401k, 403b, one of these qualified retirement plans, employer retirement plans, they used to hold this against us, right? Hold us against us is too strong of language, but they used to add this back in, right? So if we contributed to a 401k plan at work, that reduced our taxable income, our adjusted gross income, but the colleges said, well, what do you contribute at work? We're going to add that back in. They don't anymore. So again, hopefully some more light bulbs going off where there's potentially an opportunity here. Well, if we max out our retirement contributions, that could make us eligible for more financial aid potentially. Again, not a blanket recommendation, and Peggy could break in again here and she'd be right too. But again, hopefully get your wheels turning there. That's the good news. Let's talk about the potential bad news here. And when I say potential bad news, this first one is not necessarily bad news, although I think they had not great intentions here. And we got this question a bunch, so let me reiterate. Peg already teased it, but let me reiterate. If you are a split household family, so a 2-household family, divorced, separated, there's 2 households, okay? The parent that completes the FAFSA is the parent that provides the most financial support to the student. Okay. That's not the most. That doesn't mean who pays the most child support. That doesn't mean who claims them as an exemption on the tax returns. That doesn't mean where the student lives. Who they want you to, who should complete the FAFSA, according to this new rule, is who provides the most financial support to the student. The thought process here, is that they think that this is mostly means it's going to be the family with the most, or the household with the higher resources, more income, more savings, higher SAI, therefore less need-based financial aid eligibility. Be strategic here, guys, if you have the opportunity, right? Most families that I've been talking to that are impacted by this situation, most, of course, not all, are like, I don't really know who provides the most financial support. They pay child support to me, but I'm the one that pays the mortgage here. I'm the one that's given $20 every time they're going out. I'm the one that's buying groceries for an 18-year-old boy every week, right? Like, we're not even sure who determines that. You do. Okay, you determine that. And you have until at least December to be strategic about who completes this FAFSA. And obviously, if you understand the concept here, we would like it to be the parent that has the lower income, the lower amount of non-retirement savings and investment, therefore the one that's going to be eligible for the maximum amount of financial aid. So obviously this is complex and nuanced, and every family dynamic is different here. Again, I will plug ourselves especially if or I will plug us. You should be talking to us if you're a family that fits in this situation somewhere, because we can help figure out, well, how should we navigate this? Okay. A tough one, and there's not an easy answer to here. Number two, they're getting rid of the sibling discount. This formula used to account for the fact that if you had more than one kid in college, we're going to consider that. That's going away. So effectively, for families that have more than one kid in school at once, for a lot of them, the cost of college is going to double. It's an insane rule. I promise you, we worked our butts off to try to prevent this from going through. We got a petition with 70,000 signatures. We tried to get in front of decision makers. We made an honest effort to educate. I think the powers that be didn't understand how the impacts that this law was going to have, but we weren't successful, and it's going through. But it's not going to be at every college, okay? But it's going to be about just at every school that uses what's called the federal methodology, and I'm going to show you in a second. And in the platform, for those of you guys that already have this set up, I'm going to show you the schools that are still going to likely going to have sibling discounts versus those that are not. The last one, and there's no, this is I think one of the worst changes. It used to be that if you were a small business owner, if you had less than 100 employees, you put down $0 for your business, the net worth of your business assets on the FAFSA. They got rid of that. So now, even if you are a sole proprietor, they want you to list your business assets on the FAFSA, even if it's just you. Again, this one drives me nuts. This is probably the one that's got me the most upset about these FAFSA changes now, because I just know how many people are going to step on a landmine here, and they're not going to be comfortable writing down $0, which you should, especially if you're a sole proprietor, because if you don't show up for work tomorrow, your business is not worth anything. Again, this is another one where I'm like, if you're a small business owner, please talk to us before you submit the FAFSA, and or the CSS profile. Too many people are going to make mission critical mistakes, especially the small business owners, for this change, which just bums me out. And I think you can go to the next one, Peggy. And this one is just a segue. It's a question we get all the time: to early decision or not to early decision, right? And that's the takeaway from this slide. We are totally comfortable with you guys applying early action to every school. You want to apply to 20 colleges? We think that's too many, although plenty of our families we work with will apply to that many. You can apply to all of them early action, and you're not beholden to any of them. You're going to find out if you've got in earlier. You're going to get your financial package earlier. So there's lots of advantages to doing that if you are on top, if you're on top of the admissions application process. If you're not, there's no need to rush, wait for a regular decision. But if you're all over it, go ahead and apply early action everywhere. Early decision, you have to be a lot more mindful, right? Because we can only apply to early decision on one school, and we have to sign an agreement that says if we get accepted to your college, we're going to come there. Okay. So that matters, right? And you're not signing up to go to the military, right? So it's not like you can't get out of it, but you do need to take it seriously. And your high school counselors have to sign the agreement too. I promise they're going to take it seriously, and the colleges take it seriously. So your obligation before you go early decision, in my opinion, is number one, you have to know about how much is this college going to cost me if I'm accepted, right? And that's why, again, and I go use our calculator. That's, again, a lot more accurate than net price calculators. Colleges net price calculators, you have to be proceed with caution. Okay. But know what the school is going to cost you. And then this has to be your kids. They had this like epiphany, aha moment. This is where I need to be. Okay. And they know this is where they want to go. If they had that, this is where I have to be, I know this is where I want to go. We know as a family about how much a school is going to cost us, and we're comfortable with that. If we can check both of those boxes with a lot of confidence, you have our blessing, not that you need it, to go apply early decision. But if there's hesitancy on either of those, we would just really, we would just want you to pause, right? And just proceed with caution. Again, if you don't, again, feel comfortable with what you're going to pay to go there, and you know, if your kid's wavering at all, like, maybe I like this more. That's
lose leverage to appeal, bottom line. So if you want to appeal and play schools off each other, I mean, then you can't do that. So
yeah. So and Peggy, let me share my screen quick here for a minute if I could. So I want to take 3 minutes before we kind of wrap here, and to, again, if you haven't, and Peg, put the link in the chat again, please, if you would. But so this is your platform. I see that most of you set up your platforms already, which is awesome, right? But it's showing you front and center, what are your family's SAIs? Am I eligible for financial aid? How much? At which colleges? What are these schools actually going to cost me? The sticker prices for most families are completely irrelevant, okay? And then we got a ton of questions say, well, are they going to look at both households if we're divorced or separated? Or do they require the CSS profile? If I click on any college, it's going to tell me a couple things, right? Am I getting a discount? Why? Is it a scholarship? Is it need-based grants, right? And if I for every college in the country, we have every single scholarship that they offer, the qualifications for each, and we're going to be able to tell you how much is your kid going to get specifically. If we click on this financial aid tab, it tells us the SIA basis, federal or institutional. If it's federal, it means they only require the FAFSA. Okay, and they are not going to have sibling discounts moving forward, right? I don't think there's going to be any exceptions there. I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully there are, right? But that has to be the expectation. Versus if this said institutional here, we know that they are likely to require the CSS profile. They're also likely to consider sibling discounts. They're also likely to consider home equity. And if we are a 2-household family, they're going to consider both households, unlike the federal schools. That's really more than you need to know. All of this is baked into our algorithm, right? We're trying to take the thinking away from this for you. And as you guys are finalizing your list of schools, you go to this advanced school search here, and you can sort just based on who's going to give you the most money. So put in some admissions filters. I know my kid wants to be close to home. They prefer small schools. They want to major in biology. Okay, and you can put a whole bunch of filters in there. And I'm not eligible for need-based financial aid, so I just want to know who's going to give my kids scholarships, right? And here's, maybe Wheaton College wasn't on your list, but if they're going to give you $40,000, regardless of your financial aid eligibility, we might put it on the list. And here's an important point. We might put it on the list only because we're going to use that as a leverage when we go back to appeal to our top choice. If we are eligible for financial aid, we can sort just based on that. shoot, my kid's not getting into MIT because nobody can get into MIT. But here's some other schools that are really generous with financial aid and maybe are a little bit more realistic from a admissions standpoint. So again, leverage the platform. Okay. And here's kind of what, and Peg can share this link for you guys, but and I'm sure Peggy will have her own thoughts here to layer on to mine. This is our takeaway that we say every time. And again, for those of you, I know we have our kind of loyal fans out there, Peggy, that are here all the time, and we appreciate you big time, right? But something that we say at the end of every presentation, and we mean very sincerely, our job, like if we did our job tonight, it's that you continue to follow along in some capacity. You don't just kind of say like, all right, I kind of get it, and then just go kind of drift, right? Or put your head back in the sand, which again, I'm being a hypocrite here. That would be my strategy. But you have to do something, okay? And there's kind of two broad buckets that we kind of, I put people in, right? Obviously, I'm oversimplifying. But if you're a DIYer, my firm recommendation is you engage in one of these capacities. If you're a DIYer, just upgrade the software to the full version. That way you can put in unlimited schools, you can sort, you can use that advanced search that I just showed you and sort based on who's going to give you the most in scholarships, who's going to give you the most in the financial aid, right? And use this coupon code tonight. It expires at midnight tonight, right? We always hook up. We always have a hookup for whoever shows up live. So if you just want the software, do that. I would strongly urge you, if you are this DIYer, to do the Premium Plus Expert, because that way you get an hour with one of our experts. Again, it could be me, it could be Peg, it could be, again, the director of financial aid at MIT, Harvard, Oklahoma, the former director of financial aid at USC, at Denison, right? People that have been doing this their entire lives, that have their PhDs in this stuff, right? And for these people to be on our team, to get in front of you, they've gone through both Peggy and I's and our larger team's kind of vetting process, which we're pretty proud of, because if you're getting in front of somebody, they're going to have better advice than you're going to find, I think, anywhere. But this Premium Plus Expert, right? If you upgrade to this, you can use an hour with any one of us, in addition to having full access to the software anytime over the next year, right? So if you think you could benefit from an hour at any point over the next year, do this one, which again, I think is a no-brainer. For some of you, the best solution, the best investment that you can make in this entire college process is our full service, one of our full service packages that we call our Wake Me Up When It's Over packages, right? And this is a whole nother layer of hand-holding and expertise. Essentially, you have unlimited hours, okay, with a one-on-one expert from now until your kid actually moves into the dorm. So we're going to help you finalize your list. We're going to make sure that you're applying to competing colleges that we can leverage against one another, right? We're going to make sure that you have schools that are great fits for the kid, but are also going to give meaningful discounts. You don't need to worry about the FAFSA and the CSS profile. We're going to do that for you, okay? And we're going to go over it with you, and that's going to, we worry about who needs what, where, when, how. It's like having a great CPA, right? And what we do is help you qualify for the maximum amount of deductions, and again, take off your plate having to worry about, well, do they need FAFSA, CSS, institutional, whatever. We do it for you. We will be on the front lines for the appealing, negotiating part of the process. When you get that offer back, and it doesn't blow us out of the water, which we don't expect it to, right? We will lead the charge on how do we go back to get more money from that school. And there's a method to that madness, I promise you. And then lastly, once we know where we're going and what's going to cost, we're going to work with you to say, well, how do I pay the bill? If I need to borrow, how do I get the best rate? If I have some savings, should I use my 529 first, or grandparent contributions, or UGMA? We do that for you. Here's the big caveat there. Again, there's a couple different financial aid packages we have. If you buy tonight, you get the $500 off. Okay, use the coupon code CSS. What is it? CSS 20, Peggy?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. CSS 20.
Yeah, so you get $500 off. If you want just the financial aid package, you can do that and sign up through there through the link. We have a just admissions package if you want to sign up through there. our highest price point, albeit best value, is our combo package. You work with an admissions expert that really holds your kid accountable. Is your essay, are you nailing your essays? Are you nailing the Common App, right? Or should you interview? A huge one here is, should you send your test scores or should you not? And that usually depends on the school. It's very rare that we say, send them everywhere, send them nowhere. For 80% of the families we work with, we'll send them to some, we won't send them to others. So this combo package gives you your financial aid professional 101 and your admissions professional 101. Now, the big thing here is we will very likely, we'll probably take, I don't know, a handful more clients for our Wake Me packages for the class of 2024. I imagine this will definitely be the last event that we will have these at a discount. So if you want to do them for class 2024, there is some urgency to do that tonight. I understand it's a big commitment financially. What I'll tell you is, if you're even considering it, do it tonight to lock yourself in. If you're having any type of buyer's remorse tomorrow, or you didn't get to talk to your spouse tomorrow, or your ex or something like that, you can have a gut check call with us, right? So buy it tonight, get the discount, and then you can write into support@collegeaidpro.com and say, hey, I just purchased the Wake Me package. I wanted to get the $500 discount and want to make sure I work with you guys before you filled up your roster for this season. And then you'll have a gut check call with myself or one of the other experts in the next couple of days. And if that gut check call, you're like, I got out over my skis, I want my money back, we'll give you a full refund, no questions asked. But that's, again, I understand that's a big leap, especially if you're meeting us for the first time tonight. But the fact of the matter is, and this is sincere, our roster is full. The last client we'll take is definitely next Tuesday, but this will be the last event where we offer it at a discounted rate. So that's for what it's worth.
Yeah, so really somebody asked how to upgrade. If you're in in your account in the top right corner, and Matt can give you a visual, there's that button that says upgrade. Just click that, and that's where you can either book the meeting, just pay the $349, don't forget your coupon code, and then you'll get the upgrade to the platform for a year, and then you can book your meeting whenever you want. You know, I like Matt said, I encourage you to grab that discount, because you know we do give discounts, but we don't give 20% that often. So do encourage you to grab that.
Yeah, so we'll again if you want to sign up for the Wake Me package, I'm putting that link in the chat again. It's right there. Again, $500 off. That's tonight only, and we'll probably be closed for the season as early as tomorrow for class 2024. Class 2025, you have less urgency. You have time to sign up for that. And then if that's just not in your price point, right, and you're just kind of more of a DIYer, again, for either of these two, and I'll firmly recommend you do this one. That's just within your accounts, you know, right up here it'll say upgrade, and choose one of those. But do it, guys, right? I mean, this isn't like, obviously we're biased here, right? But it's also, hopefully your instincts are telling you that we're genuine, because we are. This is the best investment you can make for yourself and for your kids right now. Like, this isn't the place to save money. I know you don't want to think about spending money, especially when you're staring at $90,000 sticker prices here. But this is the best investment you can make at this stage of the game, and you're going to thank yourself. You're going to thank us if you, engage in some capacity. And if that doesn't come to fruition, I'm not going anywhere. You can take it to me directly, and I'll have that conversation. But I'm incredibly confident with what we deliver and the team that we have, and we understand what's at stake, and nobody's more experienced than we are when it comes to this. And something we talked about, Peggy was on the meeting that we had this morning, of like what arguably our biggest differentiator, especially for our Wake Me Up when it's over a package. Yes, you're working with one person, but we work together and collaborate as a team all the time. So we're able to say, hey, here's this family I'm working with, the schools that they're looking at what am I missing, who are their direct competitors, and we get to tap into the best minds that, you know, do this in the world. So again, that's I think that the best investment you can make for college at this stage is at least one of these. And you know who you are. If you're the DIYer, just buy the hour, right? And make sure that somebody's staring at your CSS profile before you hit submit, right? And make sure that you're not missing anything there. There's too much at stake. If you know that you're just kind of overmatched here, you don't have the time and you don't want to mess anything up, invest in the wake me up when it's over package, right? But yeah, do something, right, Peggy?
Yep, just don't, yeah, from one parent to another who's been through this, just stay engaged. Keep, you know, it's very easy to put it over on the pile and go back to your busy life. So stay engaged. We're here, lean on us in whichever one of these three ways works. And we'll be doing line by lines of these forms. We're going to keep showing up. But yeah, if the Wake Me speaking to you, we truly are, you know, it's almost November. So we're going to be closing down, and our experts just only have so much bandwidth, and it's running pretty low. So keep that in mind.
Yep. And yeah, and I got a couple questions like, who will we talk to if we book an hour? You can pick whoever you want, or say next available, right? So you can read the bios on our website, say, hey, I want to meet, you know, I'm thinking about my kids applying to University of Southern California, right? My kids applying to USC. Well, it probably makes sense for you to talk to JP, who is the financial aid director there, right? Or you know, or again, we have one of our experts, you know, Mike, is it Hunsberger, Peggy?
Who's a veteran expert? Yeah, that's Hunsberger.
He's an expert in veteran benefits and things like this. If you're a veteran, you know, he's your guy. You know, if you're more looking at state schools and thinking an appeal is an important part of your process. You know, Mike Hinderman is director of scholarships at University of Oklahoma. So he's a state school kind of guru and an appeal guru. You know, so anyways, but yeah, do something, guys. You're not going to regret it. And this is, you know, for class 2024 families, it's kind of too late to save too much at this stage. It kind of is what it is in types of saving. So I think this is where you can you know,
save on the cost of college instead of saving for college.
Exactly. Most importantly, let's go Hokies. Let's go Hokies. We're gonna beat those Syracuse Orangemen. I haven't checked the score yet, but yeah, listen, guys, and even if you don't purchase anything tonight, please continue to pay attention to everything that we're doing. We are not going anywhere, and we'll be back next week and beyond and beyond and beyond.
Yeah, you won't be rid of us.
Yeah, like it or not, and yeah, you can use that hour at any point over the next year, guys. So you know, again, if you don't need it for the CSS profile or the FAFSA review, or making sure you get another look in your college list, or where you should send test scores or not, it could be during the appeal process, or how to get the best loan. There's plenty of ways that we can provide a ton of value for.
Apparently, the Hokies are up 10-zip.
Let's go!
All right. On that positive note, we will let you get back to your evening.
Let me get back to that game. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.